Welcome to the deep dive. We grab a bunch of info, sort through it, and hopefully leave you knowing more, maybe even seeing things a bit differently. Today, we're diving into something, well, pretty interesting and maybe a little worrying too. We're looking at how these new disruptive models, like for vacation rentals, are hitting fields you wouldn't expect. Specifically, Airbnb-style hunting. Sounds kind of odd, right? And it brings up a big question. What actually happens when you apply a really short-term transactional approach to something like wildlife conservation, which is inherently long-term? So our goal today is to unpack the potential downsides, the negative effects, pulling from an article by Basecamp Leasing called The Negative Effects of Airbnb Hunting. Let's just start with their core analogy because it,
Right.
it really hits the nail on the head. They say that just wash the sheets and relist model. It just doesn't work when your guests are hunting animals that, only reproduce once a year. Okay, so first off, how does this Airbnb hunting model actually operate? What does it look like? Well, the article describes these platforms offering day hunts, often with very little vetting. Access is quick. It's all about convenience, like ordering takeout, but for hunting. And you can see the immediate appeal, can't you? Landowners make some money from their land.
Hunters get access, maybe to places they couldn't normally hunt,
Right, short-term access.
and the platform, the middleman,
Yeah.
takes a cut. Seems like a win-win-win on
Yeah.
the surface.
Exactly. On the surface, it looks pretty good for everyone involved. Simple. But hiding just beneath that is this fundamental ecological truth and gets missed a lot. Wildlife just isn't like a product you can, restock instantly. It's not a commodity like that. And that's really where the problems begin to show up.
Okay, let's dig into that difference then. Why is wildlife so different from, say, a rental room?
Yeah.
What's the core biological issue?
Well, the biology is pretty inflexible, really. Most of the big game species, we're talking about deer, elk, turkey, they have a very strict annual reproductive cycle. Once a year, that's it. There's no magic reset button.
Right.
When an animal's harvested, it's gone. Poof, no immediate replacement is coming along next week.
Yeah.
So the consequence is, well, it's serious. If you take too many, or if there's too much disturbance during critical periods like breeding season or when fawns are young.
Vulnerable times. Exactly. Local populations can actually crash. They can't sustain that pressure.
Yeah.
And these day hunts, the model itself, it sort of encourages high turnover. It prioritizes the quick cash over thinking about, long-term health of the herd.
That makes sense. It's a totally different way of thinking about the resource itself. So with that quick transaction focus, who's actually looking out for the land, for the animals? Where does the accountability fall in this kind of setup?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This Airbnb model, it tends to create a real disconnect. The hunter isn't invested in the place long-term, and the article points out something crucial. Often the landowner doesn't even live on the property.
Oh, okay, so there might be nobody there day to day.
Precisely. So who's making sure a wounded animal gets tracked down, or that gates are kept closed, or even just that the same small area isn't being hit by hunter after hunter day after day, pressuring the animals constantly?
Right, that cumulative impact.
Yeah. Without that oversight, even well-intentioned hunters might push boundaries, ethically or ecologically. Maybe they don't realize the pressure the area is already under, and what you end up with is basically a tragedy of the commons.
Ah, right. The idea that everyone takes what they can before it's gone because nobody feels responsible for the whole thing.
Exactly. If it's a shared resource with no real gatekeeper or long-term steward, it just gets depleted. Everyone races for their piece.
That's a pretty concerning picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the risk with this model, what are the alternatives? How do, say, more traditional hunting arrangements snack up against this?
Well, the contrast is quite stark, actually. Think about traditional hunting leases, where someone leases a property for a whole season or even year after year, or guided hunts that last several days.
Okay.
Those models tend to build relationships between the hunter, the landowner, the land itself, and, importantly, the wildlife. They often come with management plans, agreed upon harvest limits. There's usually a stronger sense of stewardship involved.
So more investment in the future of the place.
Exactly. The key difference is that hunters in those systems, they care about what that land and those animal populations look like next year, not just what they can get next weekend. They have, skin in the game for the long haul.
That really clarifies the difference in mindset. But is there actual data? Is there evidence backing up these concerns about how this day hunt model might affect animal populations?
Yeah, the source article does touch on this. It points out that states already face challenges managing hunting pressure on public lands, issues like crowding, overharvesting in accessible areas,
We hear about that a lot.
and adding these fragmented sort of one-off private land hunts into the mix, it just adds another layer of pressure, making management even harder. And generally, wildlife management research shows pretty consistently that stability is key. Stable hunting access, predictable hunter behavior, those things lead to healthier, more resilient animal populations.
Okay.
Day hunts, almost by definition, disrupt both. They introduce instability,
Mm.
unpredictability, and wildlife just isn't equipped to handle that kind of rapid, constant change.
So it seems like we really need a fundamentally different approach when dealing with wildlife. What does genuine conservation look like when it comes to hunting? It sounds like more than just following the basic laws.
Oh, absolutely. Real conservation, especially in hunting, it demands restraint. It's about knowing when not to shoot,
Right.
when to pass on a young buck, even if it's legal, because you understand its role in the herd's future. Or knowing when to stay clear of a bedding area during a sensitive time, even if it means a harder hunt. That
Mm.
kind of decision-making, that kind of long view, well, it doesn't usually come with a cheap day pass.
Hmm.
It comes from having that skin in the game we talked about, from understanding the ecosystem, from feeling a connection and responsibility. Ultimately, the whole future of hunting relies on having healthy wildlife populations to actually hunt. And that means we probably need to push back against these fast cash models that treat wildlife like it's, I don't know, disposable, like inventory.
Yeah, it's very clear. That quick rental thinking, it just fundamentally clashes with how living ecosystems work with their own slow, natural cycles. The potential consequences are, well, they're huge for our wildlife.
So yeah, to loop back to that analogy from the start, no, you really can't just watch the sheets. Because when the deer or the elk or the turkeys are gone from an area due to overpressure, they aren't magically back next weekend. They might be gone until next year's reproductive cycle kicks in, or maybe even longer if the damage is bad enough. And, the article puts it starkly, if we keep treating hunting like a one-night stand, eventually there might not be a next year at all for some of these populations.
That's a powerful final thought. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today, exploring this really complex intersection of technology, tradition, and conservation. Definitely gives us all something to think about.